This conference will now be recorded.
All right, thank you so much. It's nice to see a lot of faces in the audience. Must be an issue. And a crummy day. So it is now 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023. And I will call this regular meeting of council to order. I respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge that the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous and Métis communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Introductions around the table. I will start on my far right.
Hello, I'm Councillor Graham Randall.
Good evening, everyone. Erwin Kump is my name, and I'm a councillor.
Penny McMorris, Mayor.
CAO long-term.
Steve Axley.
And on the screen we have,
Councillor Ian Chadsey.
thank you. All right, so first up is our agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda be adopted as presented. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Erwin, second.
There's some at the front.
Any additions to the agenda, gentlemen? Steve?
Maybe just a discussion of fire risk, if we want to have that conversation now, or.
Could we add it under fire?
Yeah.
Under reports? Okay, so no official agenda addition. Ian, you're good?
No, I wanted to see if I could get a permit to drive a car into the RM next Saturday for my wife's birthday. The person that's doing the catering needs to get in there and set up.
Okay, can we do that outside of the council meeting?
Oh, sure. Oh, I didn't know how it was done.
The form is online. Okay,
Okay.
sorry, Ian. All right, any further discussion on the agenda? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. All right, minutes of the August 1st, 2023 regular council meeting were circulated to members of council. Be it resolved that the minutes of the August 1st, 2023 regular council meeting be adopted as presented. May I have a mover? Graham, thank you. Erwin, second. Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes, gentlemen?
Appear to be in order.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. And now we will move on to committee reports. We will start with Public Works. Public Works update to August 22nd. Door-to-door garbage pickup continues until Wednesday, September 6th. There is no garbage pickup from Thursday, September 7th until June 24th, 2024. Air-resistant garbage bins are still available to order through the RM website. The current price on the website is $225, but we may increase that depending on the information we get back from our supplier. Order forms can be found on the RM website under forms and documents, and a air-resistant bin is a must if you want curbside garbage pickup in 2024. Remember that garbage pickup is for bagged household garbage only. That doesn't mean sidewalk bricks or nails or building materials. Please use a garbage bag inside your garbage bin to make it easier for Public Works staff to empty it. Our new garbage and recycling transfer station is working well. A reminder, we charge for items such as mattresses, box springs, chairs, sofas, fridges, stoves, and dishwashers. Prices are listed at the recycling site. Building materials do not belong at the Public Works transfer station. Please take them to the Traverse Bay landfill. Days of operation will change from November 1st to April 30th, but the hours of operation will remain the same, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Our depot will be closed Tuesdays and Wednesdays. The Traverse Bay landfill will be closed Wednesdays and Thursdays. The new roof structure has been put in place near the entrance to our transfer station. This will soon have sidewalls installed and will serve as a cold storage area. The area beside the police barracks has been cleared and prepped by Public Works for installation of a shipping container for much-needed police department storage. Work has begun on clearing up the ditches that are overgrown. This is a maintenance issue and long overdue. Public Works continues to work on the very long list of tree removals and maintenance of paths, and we'd like to thank everyone for their patience. Deadline for ordering a civic sign is Thursday, September 8th at a cost of $60 for installation in the fall. Preventative maintenance is always ongoing on all municipal equipment. Water samples from the water treatment plant on 8th Avenue, the well at the fire hall, and the Albert Beach Pump House are regularly taken into Winnipeg for mandatory testing. We have had some concerns about, not ditching, about gravel on, say, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th Avenue from residents. I've been advised by our Public Works Department that these streets have not been done for about 10 or 12 years. So when the A-base gravel, which was tested and shown to be suitable for these kinds of roads, was put down, it is a bit of a switch for some of our residents, and we realize it's causing a few issues, but I'm told that once more people drive on it and we get some more moisture, that gravel should compact and become a harder surface. That is my Public Works report. Gentlemen, any questions? All right, thank you. I'll move on to finance.
For finance report, July 31st, start with the balance sheet. Assets are around 10.4 million. Liabilities are around 2.6. There's a surplus of about 7.8 million. I noticed in the accounts payable that the school board was paid 1.8 million. So that should take the liabilities down a bit. So all in all, the balance sheet is on good solid ground. The operating budget is showing or expecting taxes of about 2.4 million. From the leases, 156,000, golf course, 190,000, and government grants is about 150,000. So total revenue we're expecting is about 3.46 million. Total expenses year to date are about 1.76 million. So we've got a net surplus of about 1.2, which is showing that we're on solid ground. Everything's in good shape as far as operating budget. I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you, Ian. Any questions, gentlemen? Comments? All right, thanks very much, Ian. I will move on to fire. Steve, would you like to go ahead?
So for the fire, the fire report, there were a total of 4 emergency calls in July. The 2 calls in the RM of Victoria Beach were for a fire alarm that ended up being a false alarm and an assist with Pine Falls ambulance with a landing zone. This was called off at the last minute by the ambulance crew. The 2 calls in the RM of Alexander were for an ETV accident with injuries. The fire department assisted in extracting an injured person from the bush and support for the other person until an ambulance was able to arrive. In both cases, the injuries were not life-threatening. The fire department has started doing more life-saving training in our communities and had one successful event in July and another in August. The fire department continues to maintain and repair their equipment and gear during the busy summer season to make sure that they are ready to attend any emergency call that is received. And just a message from Brad, he's just saying that, I'll just read it in first person. I have received in my daily travels around the communities that we have a safety issue growing more dangerous day by day. We are looking at the dead standing trees in our communities and realize the fire hazard, but each day the dead tree stands there. They become weaker and will randomly start falling. The concern with this is the location of some of the trees along roadways and walking trails. If the tree were to fall on someone, there could be injuries. So obviously we're all very much aware of the fire risk. Finally, we're starting to be aware of fire risk for our community. So a few things. The very first is that since we have so many people here, please sign up for Connect using your Victoria Beach address. If you have already signed up for Victoria Beach, please go back into Connect and see if you have used your Victoria Beach address. If you haven't, then that doesn't really help us contact you. You need to use your Victoria Beach address. Please go home and tell everybody who has signed up for Connect to check that they, again, have used their Victoria Beach address. Also, if you're taking around, just like our fire chief has, you're going to see the dead and dying trees. Again, it's not just dead and dying trees. Those are the biggest risks because they dry out over time. It's also conifers. They burn at a rate of about 8 times faster than a deciduous tree. And we also need to start taking a look at the Fire Smart initiative very closely. So please go onto the Fire Smart website and do everything that is reasonable for you. If you are a vulnerable resident and you would have problems escaping in an emergency, please either phone the department. The police department. They have started putting together a list of all of our vulnerable residents. Or you could also contact office, and then they can basically reach out to the police to inform them of who you are and that you need some help in an evacuation. I'm just going to go over some of those Fire Smart things real quick. I'm not going to take up too much time, but since we have so many people here, I think it's important. So things that you can do to protect yourself, force the event of an out-of-control wildfire, or to prevent a wildfire are as follows. Regenerate your forest by beautifying your property with deciduous trees, removing and replacing coniferous trees. Coniferous trees, for those who don't know, are evergreens. I've had that question a couple of times. And again, replace them with drought-resistant deciduous trees. Remove all material from under your residence. We all have stuff under our cabins. Some people, that's where they keep their firewood. Not the best thing if the fire is raging through, because obviously that material is going to catch and then will burn down your residence. Ensure that you maintain a 5-meter gap between you and the trees around you where possible. We're not talking about clear cutting your properties. We're just saying do what is most reasonable for you. Utilize wood chips and weighty mulch around your trees to reduce the moisture evaporation. Don't cover the trunk of the tree, otherwise it will kill the tree. But if you have weighty mulch, again, 5 meters away from your property, it will help to reduce the likelihood of those trees dying from a lack of water. Clean out your eaves troughs, because one of the biggest risks in a fire is the fire embers, which will get caught where there is some leaves or dead grass. Oftentimes they'll actually be inside of the eaves troughs because we're not cleaning them out. Add non-combustible 3-meter screens to all of your exterior vents. Again, the embers will find their way into your cabin through any open vent. And then finally, move all your firewood at least 10 meters away from your home. Residents can find more information at firesmartcanada.ca or through our website.
All right, thank you. Hope you're all taking notes.
Oh, one more thing. Please stop lighting fireworks. I heard some the other night.
All right, thank you very much. Any further discussion on fire? All right, thanks very much, Steve. I'll move on to you, Erwin, for the police report.
Our police department was very busy. Police department was very busy in the month of July. That's obviously when most people are around. There were 353 incidents reported. That doesn't mean 353 crimes, but police were involved with individuals. And that compares to 309 in the month of June. So the police were busy. There was 1 arrest. In 6 cases, the RCMP, our view, requested assistance from our police force. There was 1 attempted break into a residential shed, and apparently the criminal was not successful. He didn't get in. So it's, I just want to comment, that's the first break-in in about 3 or 4 months. So, the presence of the CSOs and our police I think is paying dividends. Is the best deterrent against crime is visible police. There were 16 Highway Traffic Act tickets issued, and that compares with 25 last month. So fewer tickets means fewer people speeding, and that's positive. Again, reflecting on laser traffic enforcement, there were 41 incidents in July, and that again compares with 77 in June. Again, thank goodness people are slowly slowing down. There was 2 water rescue efforts. I don't know the exact details, but again, the police had a very busy month, and as we go into fall, you know, the risk of criminal activities and break-ins increases because there's just fewer of us around. So put your bikes away, make sure your sheds are securely locked, do whatever you can to make your place much harder to get into, and that will deter crime. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Erwin. Any comments, discussion?
One thing I forgot. We are having some issues with our police radios and phones, and that issue is being addressed. We have a consultant who's working with MTS trying to solve the problems, but occasionally there will be a situation where a call is not answered by our police. We're very concerned about that, and we're doing everything we can to get it fixed. So all I can say is bear with us.
All right. Any discussion? All right. Thanks very much, Erwin. Moving on to special events. I have nothing to report, although a couple of previous events, the Walk for Water, the Bike to the Beach, all in support of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation, raised an amazing amount of money. I think it was over $170,000. So thank you so much to all who participated, who walked, biked, and who donated. That's tremendous, and every penny goes to help the health of our lake. But otherwise, I have nothing special coming up. So I will move on to you, Ian, for the golf course, if you have anything.
I have a few things. I talked with Carl. He was mentioning the ramp that we've approved should be started, I think this week or early next week. The roof is done, that's complete. He was saying that financially the results are better this year than they were last year. He said every weekend is very busy, and looks like he's on track to meet budget. So all good news.
It is good news, and yet another small tournament there today, so it was pretty busy. All right, thank you, Ian. Moving on to municipal buildings, Graham.
Municipal buildings, and I've condensed my report for brevity. Some of this has already been touched on by Penny, but the public works yard, the roof structures are completed, and there's an order that will be pending for the sheeting material on the garage door. The Parks Garage upgrade, that's that little wooden building off to the west side. We're going to quote to get the parts to fix that up and make it more presentable. The bakery air conditioning has been installed and it's working beautifully, and we have upgraded their holding tank, which was a bit of a problem. So they're happy for the moment. We also helped out at the Moonlight Inn where we bought a new dishwasher. It's, well, a very good condition used dishwasher. It's been many, many years since we bought anything for the inn. So when Aaron brought this to our attention, we decided to respond. Most of the equipment and the machinery in the Moonlight Inn is our property, and we have an obligation to make sure that it's in decent working order. Stairs all over the place. We pretty well completed all the stairs, with the exception of number 4 Bayview, and Grant tells me he's starting on that this week. He's already fixed that particular beach that had that one right leg. So he's done an excellent job. He's done with every one of these step by step by step. He's pretty much got it all wrapped up. He'll move on to the golf course ramp in September, as Ian has so correctly suggested. With the parking lot, we're looking at a proposed expansion of the parking lot. It's long overdue, and along with that will come an upgrade to the EV charging stations. And as a matter of fact, the decision may be to physically separate parking from charging. They're two different issues. We've met with Kevin. I'll be reviewing what we've discussed further and very likely inviting one of the potential contractors to walk the bush with me and figure out what's involved and where's the best way to go about it. So there'll be more on that. Then that'll be in preparation for the 2024 budget. We've got to put money in for the parking lot. Ed Randall Park over at Wanasing, the upgrades for the corn roast looked after, and the college owners wanted me to thank Public Works for their cooperation with this. It worked beautifully. The Village Green accessible washroom. It's out for tender. The tender's closed August 25, and then we'll see what we got and where we go from there. There's still a pretty good chance it could be completed this fall, but we'll see where it goes. As far as the Albert Beach accessibility, I was over there again the other day, and I called the contractor. He tells me that he expects to get the metal sheeting up later on this week. And then our plumber, Curtis, is poised to spring into action with all the necessary toys and accessories and doodads that go inside at the same as we did at Pier Point. Once again, as has been pointed out, the police sea cam has been delivered and set up successfully. It's tucked back out of the way. You can't see it, which should satisfy those people who are shocked and awed at the idea of a container in Victoria Beach. But it's a nice looking machine and it's going to work fine. We've got Dennis Danwich working on hooking up the electrics. And last but not least, a number of us, including led by our CIO Vaughn, are working on a very large provincial grant application pertaining to infrastructure. And we're going to try and throw into it our expansion, a police building and the fight. We've still got time to go before the deadline, and we've appointed an architect who's willing to prepare the necessary drawings for us on speculation, which helps us with no cash outlay. So we'll be reporting further on this grant, and hopefully it'll come through for us. It's worth a couple $1 million.
If we're successful, yeah.
If we're successful.
That'd be great.
Let's stay positive.
When we're successful.
Yes. And that pretty much covers it for municipal buildings. Thank you.
And Tom? Sorry, there's no questions. Sorry, there's no questions. No, sorry, Lynn. Did you have a comment? No, sorry. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Graham. I know you've got a busy portfolio there. All right, we'll move on to the Doctor's Cottage Committee. Steve.
The committee has a proposal before council to try and mitigate the effects of the provincial-wide doctor shortage. Further information will be released should it be approved. We're also preparing for the end of year shutdown after a successful year. However, the doctor shortage did affect us for the first time. We will be doing everything that we can to try to ensure that we have medical personnel available for the entirety of next season. If you know any doctors who may be interested, perhaps even a doctor who needs a relaxing break after their studies, have them contact the committee or myself as soon as possible, so that we can get next year's roster then set up the better. And also the committee, the doctors committee needs some new blood. We need some new members. So if you would like to join the doctors committee, if you're interested, please contact me. My email is on the website, or you can just, I can just give it to you now, which is saxworthy@victoriabeach.ca.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, gentlemen? All right, thank you very much, Steve. So we're moving on to communications. So that's you and I. So we did, I think it's fair to tell our residents that we had a short meeting this afternoon with our fire chief, because we know that there's some concerns out there that, given the fires in Maui and Yellowknife and Kelowna and northern Manitoba now, that there might be some concerns or some questions about our readiness. And I truly believe that we are ready. We have an amazing group of volunteer firefighters. We have equipment on hand. We have mutual aid agreements with nearby communities. We have VB Connect, as Steve has mentioned already, that we need you to sign up for. There's been questions about the siren that we used to have that used to go off at noon on Sundays. That deer siren was found in the bush several years ago. It used to be on a pole by the information office. It has been repaired and it is in working condition. The problem is it's 300 pounds and it needs 3-phase electric to operate. And we need a structure that's high enough and strong enough to support it. So we do still have it. We do understand some people would like it. It's something that we are considering, I believe. But it's a matter of making sure that something is available to support it that's high enough and heavy enough.
Just as suggestions, but I'm not sure if Brad's or whoever's recruiting or not, but the electrician working on the power, the upgrade to the barracks and the CCAN, he's upgrading to 220. There might be an opportunity there to get the power that we need to run that.
We do have the 3-phase
Yeah.
near the fire hall, so that's not the problem.
Okay.
It's really the structure.
Yeah, all right,
So
thank
we're
you.
investigating a couple things there. But we are planning on sending out a notice to residents via Connect about our fire readiness as well in the next couple of days. And that would be our communication, I believe. Anything to add? Okay. Sorry if I stole your thunder there. All right. Okay. go ahead.
Again, just one quick reminder, because we've been saying it, but people haven't been doing it, which is go to Connect and make sure that you're using your Victoria Beach address. I know that I'm repeating myself multiple times in this meeting, but we've been saying this for the last 3 years, so.
Mhm. All right, thank you. Moving on to the Summer Information Office. They will be closing their doors for the season at 8 p.m. on Sunday, September 3rd. The vehicle restriction ends at 6 a.m. on Monday, September 4th, and I'm always amazed at how many people are up at the parking lot at 6:01. Not me. But please remember that there are many residents and visitors who still like to walk and cycle, even though we can drive our vehicles in. So please slow down, be aware of one another, and obey the traffic signs, and all shall be good. Moving on to the building inspector, Graham.
All right, thank you. Compliments of our building inspector, Curtis Bodwin. Here's the building reports for the month of July. With the permits, there was 5 main permits, 1 development permit. We always like to see those. That's our potential to get somebody buying a lot and deciding to clear cut into that side of the fence. 2 bunkhouses, 1 garage, 2 decks, 2 additions, 1 terrace, 1 porch, 1 tennis court. That was a buffer. Yeah, right. Well, they had to apply for permits.
Oh, our tennis court.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
An outdoor shower, and 1 fireplace. Total value of permits, just a little over $3 million, which brings our year-to-date to just about $6 million in building permits. And the fees collected to date, this will warm Ian's heart, $17,900 for a total of $46,000 collected year-to-date in permit fees.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Any comments or questions, John? Thank you, Graham. Moving on to accessibility, Graham touched on the Albert Beach project and on the Village Green washroom project. Those are my concerns or questions, and you've addressed them. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Steve, Heritage and Trails.
The Trails Committee is separate from the VBTA, but the VBTA is sort of trying to communicate with council, with me, and then also directly to council as well. The two things that they really have going right now is they're trying to push for the AV to VB trail to be complete, which we've mostly said we were going to do for next year. But there is some other communications that might be able to help us possibly try to find some grants. But they also have an accessibility proposal before council right now. I'm not going to go into it only because, again, it's just a proposal, but it is something that has come forward. So we're all taking a look at it. We'll see what happens. As for Heritage, we don't really have anything to call Heritage right now. I'm just going to say no report.
What about your volunteer appreciation award?
Oh, jeez, sorry.
You've got a crowd here.
It's been a long day. Yeah, perfect opportunity. Sorry, I'm not used to so many people wanting to fall asleep. I'm not sure if anybody here knows, but we do have a volunteer appreciation award. If you know anybody in the community who's been doing a lot of work for Victoria Beach and deserves recognition, the application is on the website. So go over, fill it out, submit it, and it's long past the date for this year, but for next year, then you can get their names in. And one of the things that's come up a lot of times is that people will say, well, this person doesn't want to be recognized because they don't think they deserve it. It doesn't matter if they think that they deserve it; they do deserve it. If you're thinking of them, they do deserve it. So just sign the name up, toss it in, and as long as they're comfortable with it, then we'll announce their name.
All right, thank you. Graham, do we have anything to report on the Friends of the Moonlight Inn Committee?
Yeah, I have a brief report. The Friends of the Inn Committee is, the Moonlight Inn Committee is a group of 5 of us that was formed last year to try and oversee the rehabilitation of the Moonlight Inn. And as has been announced, as most people know, a benefactor has stepped forward and offered to pay for the whole thing. So that's rolling along rather nicely. Recent developments include the fact that a memorandum of understanding has been signed with All Right Construction, naming him as the general contractor. The project manager, of course, remains Unit 7. The difference between a project manager and a general contractor, there's quite a distinction. The project manager is a high-level review, and the general contractor is on the ground. It's quite normal. It's almost obligatory in projects of this size and shape that you have both a project manager and a general contractor. I'm glad to say that a viable foundation design has been agreed upon in cooperation with the geotech engineer who we've brought in, and also with the selected foundation contractors. So those conversations are ongoing. Work continues on refining the drawings, specifications, and then, of course, the timeline. The next meeting of the Friends of the Inn Committee will be later on this month, and I'll report on that in due course.
Later on in August?
Later on in August.
Thank you. Yeah, people are getting excited. And do you think there's any possibility some of the work will be started on Moonlight Inn in September or October?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, a possibility.
Oh, okay. Well, again, fingers crossed, and thank you very much.
Well, a lot of this work can proceed rather nicely throughout the winter. So we're working towards starting work this fall.
That's great.
Remains to be seen whether we're successful or not. But this is a long-term project for the benefit of all residents. So we want to do it right. And if that means we have to take a little bit longer, then so be it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, gentlemen? All right, thanks very much, everyone. So be it resolved to adopt the monthly committee reports as presented. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Graham, second. Thank you. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, we will move on to accounts and finances. Be it resolved, the following list of accounts be approved for payment. Accounts payable check 11481 to 11555, totaling $2,068,300.05. May I have a mover, Ian? Thank you. And second, Steve? Thank you. Any discussion on this topic, Ian?
Certainly, obviously, as you were grinning and mentioning the amount, it's a high number for this month, but I think 1.8 million of that is for the Selkirk School Board. Other night items that I noticed, Deck Dynasty, the $7,200 working on the Newcomb stairs and landing. We used a crane to, I guess, install that roof. It was $4,000. July recycling and hauling was $8,500. Brush pile was moved to the yard. There was $11,000 charge for that. Bakery HVAC. Sorry?
That was the chipping of all the brush.
Oh, the chipping of it.
Yeah.
Good to hear that it's all gone then, or at least chipped.
Oh,
The bakery.
Sorry.
The bakery, I think, has 3 HVACs for $10,500. There was some plumbing work done at the Moonlight and the police housing for $5,000. We paid $14,300 for the landfill at Traverse Bay. There was $80,000 paid to Best Buy Homes. I'm not quite sure. Is that for the existing facility that we have, or is this for a new facility?
Go ahead.
That's the final installment. Best Buy gave us 2.5 years of free financing, bless their hearts. So that was the final installment. But if you don't mind my interjecting for a second, please, Ian, on
Sure.
that 80,800 final payment. There's been a revision to that occurred just in the last 48 hours. We've elected to withhold $2,500 of that, pending a few deficiencies, which they said that they would come out and attend to. So this managed to get their attention, I must say. And I got a call this morning, and the guy's coming up to do this on next Tuesday. So I will subsequently advise Vaughn and his staff when they've been attended to, so that that holdback can be released.
Great, thank you.
Great. No, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Ian, gentlemen? Thanks very much. I called the question on that, did I? Did I? All right, moving on to the supplemental tax list.
You didn't vote on it.
We didn't vote on it. That's what I meant when I said call the question. Sorry about that. All right, any further discussion on the accounts payable?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Lon.
Yes.
All right, now moving on to the supplemental tax list. Be it resolved to approve the supplemental tax list as attached in Schedule A, which council received in there.
No, we did not.
We did not.
Just hot off the press.
Well, there we go. Do you want me to read it as part of the resolution? Okay. The added supplementary tax amount is $90,900.20. Canceled supplementary tax amount is $3,610.19 for a net 2023 added supplementary tax amount of $87,290.01. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Second, Erwin, thank you. Discussion?
Lon, can you just clarify, how do those supplemental tax bills, how are they created?
It's from all the investments that the residents are making in BV. and then Curtis inspects, places get built, and then they're finalized. And then it gets, the assessor comes out and reassesses the property.
So it's a result of reassessment.
Correct. New builds and that sort of thing. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions, gentlemen? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to business arising from the previous meeting. I'm sorry if I'm making too much noise here. Business arising from the previous meeting, we have 6A is the zoning bylaw and the planner's summary review. Council met yesterday afternoon with our planners, some of council. And Andre was very pleased with the turnout at the open house in July, and it was here, and with the subsequent meetings with various cottage associations. He did advise that there is an opportunity for residents to provide feedback by going online to landmarkplanning.ca/RMVBZBL for zoning bylaw. And you can add your comments and feedback, and they will leave that open for another couple of weeks. Council will be meeting with Andre again on September 6th in the RM office for a further update and to review Landmark's recommendations for moving the zoning bylaw forward. They've had a few in-person meetings with cottage associations, which went very well. And they have one more cottage association that they were trying to set up a meeting with. But all in all, I think Andre was very pleased. So, as was I.
Was there, sorry, was there any discussion on when we'd see a draft with some of these ideas in them?
Well, once Andre gets the rest of the comments from residents and meets with the final association, then he will put things together in a draft. It may not be for the September 6th meeting, but it might be. If he's going to try. He's got a few more staff members working on it, but because we have asked him to condense the timeline. So he's hoping to have some of that ready for September 6th. And then,
Including recommendations for council.
yes, correct, including the recommendations from residents that are feasible. So, yeah.
Great, thanks.
You're very welcome. Any other comments on the zoning bylaw? All right, hearing none, I'll move on. Thank you. So new business. 7A, we have a skid steer purchase resolution, but the guys at Public Works spoke to one of the dealers today. They've got 3 quotes so far. They've spoken with one of the dealers today who has said, look, I've got 2 new models coming in this week or next. I can bring one up. You can try it for a week and make your decision. So our guys are jumping at that. They want to know what they're working with. So
Which one is it of the 3?
that is the Brandt John Deere.
Okay.
Brandt John Deere.
I've asked a couple of times, and they were non-committal, which is appropriate. Luan, are you aware of any particular preference among the 3 bidders of our Public Works people? Okay, so it's an open field, so they will probably go along with the low bidder, but let's wait and see what Brand has to say. That sounds very interesting. So we would put this resolution over to the next meeting, Penny?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I should go back step. They're leaning towards the brand model.
Oh, okay.
On their way to see.
If I could add more bells and whistles.
They're removing some to bring the price down.
Oh, well, that's fine, because they were the high bidder.
No, they were.
No, they're the mid.
Oh,
They were
no,
the-
okay.
So I think it'll be a good opportunity for the guys to actually test it out and see what it can do.
Great.
Yeah, so that's great. Steve?
Do we have to rebid at that point? Because,
No.
No.
like,
They all have contracts with AMM.
okay, but they're doing it to reduce their bid, of which they've already submitted. And 3 of them have already submitted, if I'm understanding.
It wasn't an RFP situation. It was more of just buyout. It's not an RFP situation. It's more of a quote, and there's no timeline on it. And they just sought different models from different companies on different prices. So, and there's a new, long story. No, you don't have.
All right. Any further discussion on this topic? All right. So I will move on to the regular council meetings, meeting times. In the last year, we've kind of moved our council meeting times around. As you know, we're starting at 4:30 and out here, and I for one did not like the 4:30 time, but we're looking to change it going forward. So I have a resolution before me, be it resolved to change the times for the regular council meetings as follows. All meetings in Winnipeg will begin at blank. All meetings in BB will begin at blank. So I can't really ask you to pass this or to motion and second this resolution until we have some times that we've discussed. So I was going to throw out 6 p.m. across the board. 6 p.m. in Winnipeg, 6 p.m. in Victoria Beach.
I would agree with that.
All right, thanks, Ian.
I think it's too early. I think it should be 7 for Victoria Beach. We are also going to be moving our office in the city. Currently, if we want to meet in the city at the existing office, we have to do it at 6 o'clock. When we move to the new office, we wouldn't be bound by that restriction. So across the board, it should be, in my view, 7 o'clock, remaining at 6 o'clock until we move to the city.
I just want to remind the councillors that the reason why we moved the time to 4:30 was because we found we were running out of gas. You start at 7 o'clock and you get to 9 o'clock and people just are tired. So that's not that it could sway your thinking, but that's what the thinking was when we moved it to 4:30.
Right, and now we're, I don't think 4:30 is good for the beach crowd. It's either happy hour or beach hour or dinner hour. Although today is an exception, but I think 7 o'clock, if you're coming to a meeting out here, if our CAO is driving out or one of our councillors are driving out here to go back home in the dark in the winter, 7 o'clock is a bit late.
Yes, I agree with that.
I would just prefer one time, then there's no confusion. But I will hear what anybody else has to say. Steve?
I'm good either way. Honestly, like I've looked through 7:30, I've looked through 6:30. I'm more on board with 6, but
Okay.
if we want to do some sort of 7 o'clock.
I do it with 6, but I'm just one vote. I mean, my travel back and forth, in fact, I live up here, that's my problem. Not the residents.
Yeah. All right. Okay, I'm going to ask for a show of hands. What about 6 o'clock across the board? 4. Oh dear, Erwin. All right, well, I don't think I'm going to go any further than that. That's fine. All right.
Erwin, is there like a reason that you really want it at 7, or you just sort of think it's a little bit too early to have at 6?
In terms of the meetings out here, especially in summer, trying to get to a meeting for 6 o'clock, in my view, is too early. If you live in the city and you want to come out to a meeting out here in fall, then getting here by 6 o'clock is also a challenge. That means you don't have supper till 10 o'clock, or you meet at the local hamburger stand on the way out. So 7 o'clock to me is just a more manageable number for a lot of reasons.
Might we say 6:30?
Split it down the middle, sold, 6:30.
Something that's not on the table yet is whether there's any consensus to the meeting hours being different here than they are in Winnipeg. I assume we're going to continue with the meetings fluctuating back and forth. One in Winnipeg, next one out here, except for the summertime when we have our extended series of meetings here at the beach where most of us believe they belong. Should we consider different meeting times for the Victoria Beach meeting from the Winnipeg meetings to accommodate people's travel needs?
I think we could split the difference at 6:30. I mean, they have been 7 o'clock for a number of years, but previous councils used to meet at 1 o'clock in the city on a Tuesday and then 7 o'clock here at the beach.
I still like 6.
Leave it at 6?
And from these people.
I like the 6 as well.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I am actually rather in favor of what Erwin just said.
Oh, Steve.
just do it as an answer. Well, I mean, we're the ones that make the final decision, but I mean, we have so many people here, like, it would be just somebody called, like, raise their hands what they want, because that's what we're discussing right now, essentially, right?
I don't like doing that, but anyway, all right, ladies and gentlemen, you get to play. All those in favor of 6 PM out here? Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
How many
10.
people don't care?
How many people don't care? There you go.
That tells us something.
Okay, that's the answer I was more looking for. I think this is a council decision. I do appreciate it. Do appreciate that we do like to have residents come to our meetings and, but I think it is our decision, so. I'm hearing 6 o'clock from 4 council members, so. Moved, okay, so be it resolved to change the times for the regular council meetings to 6 PM. Period.
Well, that's to the end of this calendar year.
Okay.
Next year, who knows?
Okay, well,
Let's see how it works.
all right, may I have a mover?
I'll go with that.
Graham, thank you. Steve, second. Thank you. Any further discussion, gentlemen?
Nope.
All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Next up, building sustainable communities. Be it resolved to authorize Mayor McMorris and CAO Lon Turner to sign the Building Sustainable Communities Program Project Contribution Agreement. May I have a mover?
I'll move that.
Graham, thank you. Second, Steve, thank you. This is a grant that we have received from the province, and we just need to sign the paperwork and get it back. It is a housekeeping matter. Any comments, gentlemen? Graham?
Lon, I assume that you and I will be in touch frequently as I try and fill in the blanks of what you need and what the drawings and the other details.
Different grant.
That's a
This is
different
for
grant.
That's a different one.
our zoning bylaws.
This is
Yeah.
for-
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
This is the $25,000 grant. For
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we already got this. Okay.
But yes to your question.
Oh, all right.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, I will sign that at the end of the meeting. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And we move on to 7D, which is the quote for doors and siding. Be it resolved to approve the expenditure for the cold storage building doors and siding in the amount of $4,660.83 plus applicable taxes. May I have a mover?
I'll move that.
Thanks, Graham. Second. Erwin, thank you. This is for some new doors for some of our old garages at the Public Works Yard, and also some siding to put on the new roofing structure that is over by the garbage and recycling site, just to make it a little nicer as we go by. Go ahead, Graham.
Just to speak briefly on this, we've got the one quote, so I investigated a little further with the fellows at Public Works. They did some shopping around and they found that McMahon Yates had the best price on the siding, and their price on the overhead door was the same as everybody else's. So this is the right one to accept. So I'll vote in favor.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, where are we at? Okay. All right, we are almost at 5:30. So we have 2 delegations this evening. And the first delegation is regarding King Edward and Alexander Beach sandbag removal and tow protection application. My understanding is that Laura Jones, Tim and Charlene Green, and Wolf Kraft will be presenting. Are you in the audience yet? All right, there's Laura. Laura, do you want to come forward and use the microphone here at the podium, please? If you'd like to all come, or you want to just take a turn.
Sorry, this isn't enough.
you'll have to pick it up and turn it on, and you generally have to keep it fairly close to you. Otherwise, they won't hear you.
Good to know. Can you hear me?
It depends on the people at the back. And the people at the back here,
Can people hear? Okay, great. Charlene and Tim are handing out some handouts. There aren't enough for everyone, but hopefully you can share and take a look. Oh, and I have some for the council.
are they different than what you just sent us recently?
There's just a one pager to help.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll get started. So I'm here because our yard is about to cave into and become part of the beach, and we need to fix that immediately. I had the chance to speak with you in March and to show you some photos of King Edward Beach and the banks along King Edward Beach and their state this spring. So since then, with nothing in place to stabilize the land, things have only gotten worse. Back in March, Council had acknowledged and shared our concerns, and we thank you for that. You were also looking for us to bring forward solutions and funding, and you had asked for us to aim for as consistent an approach as possible. So I am extremely pleased to be here on behalf of my family and neighbors with a consistent solution that we're actually offering to fund. It will only occupy the sandbag space. It will look much better, and it will provide longer-term protection. So for those of you who can see, have the little handout with the infographics, follow along. As most of us know, erosion of Sunset Boulevard through storms and waves has been an ongoing concern to the RMVB and the ratepayers since the 60s. What we might not know is in 1970, after Manitoba Department of Natural Resources advised the RM that if erosion continued, it is possible that the beach could become private property. The RM advised the community of this, recommending rock revetment be installed, and they asked ratepayers to vote in favor or against paying for this work. Taxpayers did not want to pay for the work, and the project did not proceed. So that was the province and the RM recommending riprap revetment. And for our memory, up until 2010, the RM actually provided guidance to property owners looking to put in protection. They advised that they provided advice and an approach that was rock revetment, and then they would approve the rock revetment so long as it was privately funded. Moving along, the weather bomb happened and so much more erosion occurred along Sunset. The property owners along King Edward and Alexandra Beach came up with a proposal to protect against further storm action and to stabilize the bank. Their proposal, or our proposal, not mine at that time, my mom's, was privately funded revetment, and it was faced with concern from community members who were really worried about how that might impact the beach. And so the proposal to protect the banks was denied at that time. We're down to the sandbag icon for those of you following along. So at that point, the RM approved sandbags as a temporary hold and then launched a study and consultation to come up with a long-term plan. The study took into account the vast and opposing views of the community and stakeholders, including suggestions such as the RM should manage retreat and keep the beaches natural. The study found that this is not a viable option since the public reserve is almost gone, and once the eroding bank is on private land, the beaches will no longer be on public land. So in our investigation into different solutions, we found that the RM and taxpayer-funded study, the shoreline management plan, outlined the preferred solution being a compromise. So to afford some storm protection while minimizing the impact to the beach, the study recommends a compromise, which is instead of the typical large-scale rock revetment, the RM should install a hard toe protection that's more narrow and takes up less space on the beach. From the update to the report, the RM sought funds but wasn't actually able to secure the capital needed to action this plan. And we know that funding from outside sources and other levels of government is very difficult to come by. Congratulations on getting those 2 grants that you mentioned earlier, because I know it's really difficult. So where we're at today is most of the sandbags are empty. As you saw in March, the state of the bank. Now it's only gotten worse because we have nothing in place that the toe to stabilize. The land is caving, and we have no protection against storms. This is not a good situation to be in. And the expectation we had was, following the report and the release of the recommendations in the shoreline management plan and the subsequent update identifying King Edward Alexandra hard toe protection as the recommended approach, that would be realized, but it hasn't yet been. So our position is that, while we don't want to pay for this protection out of pocket, since it's a community concern, if the municipality is not able to because funding is limited, and since our cottages are all in jeopardy, we're prepared to pay for, build, and maintain hard toe protection. So that's what we're here to discuss, and Wolfcraft has come up with a great design and is willing to speak to it for a moment.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Hello, Wolf.
I thank Laura. Okay. So most of you may or may not know me. My name is Wolfcraft with Safe Haven Builders out here in Victoria Beach. And I'm working together with Tim and Charlene Green from Freestyle Landscaping to address this project and this problem that we're having. So between the 3 of us, we worked on various different projects along Lake Winnipeg over the last 14 years, including the sandbag protection that we placed there in 2011. And so I've been quite involved in that. Additionally, we were involved with numerous engineering firms doing protection in Victoria Beach. Of note is at the end of 8th Avenue, the water treatment plant is protected there with a revetment. And then the first 3 properties that go south from there were also protected. And this is a good example of a revetment that is not the I guess the Cadillac version that an engineering firm would request to give protection in a 1 in 100-year storm, but it is a protection that gives protection for the bank and is a starting point or a line in the sand to eliminate any further erosion of the properties. So it can be built upon. It's all natural granite boulders, and this is also what we're proposing for the toe protection along the King Edward and Alexandra beaches. The sandbag project that was done in 2011 was in the midst of a lot of community turmoil, and there was a lot of feedback, both positive and negative, about the possibility that the beach was going to be lost completely if there was erosion protection put in place. The feeling was that the sand that's on the beach comes mainly from the bank, and if you protected that, then the beach would be lost. The sandbag protection was put in place for, it was supposed to only last for 3 to 5 years, a temporary measure to ascertain what the impact would be on the beach. As we can see today, there are 70 feet of beach there currently with a water elevation of 714 feet above sea level. So the impact of the beach has not been impacted by the placement of those sandbags. Okay. I have to put my glasses on to see what I'm going to say next. So there's many pros and cons to this project, as we well know. One of the main reasons is the safety related issue. The RM passed a bylaw a few years back to protect that area so that there's no people allowed that can climb on the bank and or access that area because of the danger of the undercut that's caused by the erosion and the possibility of debris, trees, rocks falling down on top of people. So by putting a rock toe protection in place, the liability has already been addressed by this bylaw, that would just be changed as opposed to climbing on the sandbags, that would be altered to reflect that you aren't allowed to climb on the rock toe protection and or the sand bank that's in place behind the protection works. And being consulted on this, we've already approached the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. We've requested a review of our project so that any concerns that they have could be addressed before we start the project. Additionally, we met with the representatives of the province, and they have given us their input onto the situation, and they are willing to work with the local government, with the municipality, with the council here, to arrive at a solution that they feel that they can work with and the municipality can work with. They've addressed certain concerns of work permitting that we would require and the processes that we would need to take to ensure that we have these permits in place. I can tell you all that Tim and I worked with the province and the municipality last year on similar projects, and we were able to ascertain all the different permits that were required for these projects. So one of the questions that comes up, or another one that comes up often is an engineer going to be involved in this, and should an engineering firm be involved? So to answer that question, our group feeling has been, number one, we hired an engineering firm and they came back with the Bear report, which outlines various different solutions, but a hard toe protection was one of the solutions that they recommended and approved in the Bear report. Secondly, after the Bear report, it went out and we had an engineering firm, we being the municipality, and they designed a revetment that would be similar to the one that's found at the south or the north end of King Edward. By the King Edward stairs, there's a revetment in place there that gives a walking path along the top at about 728 feet above sea level. And then there's a rock revetment going down to the water's edge. That revetment took up pretty much all, if any, of the beach was there. It went right to the water's edge. What we're proposing is much, much, much less than what that project takes up. That project took up approximately 40 feet of bank. What we're proposing is a revetment that's going to be 6 feet high and 12 feet out. The toe protection will not encroach any further on the beach than the sandbags did. As a matter of fact, for about 4 properties, we will move the toe protection towards the bank, so there will be more beach than there is right now. So this design is one that can be maintained and built on as Mother Nature throws the weight of the waves at it. So this is all natural granite boulders that we're proposing. For those of you that are kind of wondering, what does 6 feet high look like on the beach and how far out is it going to be? So if you look at the door over there, the average door is just under 7 feet high. So it would probably go up to about, the hinges would be around the top of the toe protection. And coming out 12 feet, I would say would likely be around the end of the desk where Graham is sitting. So that would be the amount of rock that would be placed on the beach. Again, it wouldn't go any further out than the sandbags currently are. Now, I know that there's been a lot of consideration and concern regarding what's going to happen to the beach. Are we going to lose the beach? And there's been a lot of talk back and forth, and the Bear report does make recommendations. So the Bear report basically said that there was 3 recommendations that they had. One of them was to do a toe protection, which is what is being proposed by this group today. The second was to put out rock groins, which would hopefully gather sand. But they also indicated that by putting a rock groin out in one place could take sand away from another place further downstream. Currently, the current in Lake Winnipeg around Victoria Beach is in a counterclockwise rotation. So if you put a rock groin out at the King Edward, Alexandra beach area, you would likely lose sand at a place like the Clubhouse Beach, which is also very important to Victoria Beach. So my feeling is that a lot more research would have to be done before trying to do rock groins. The third recommendation that they had was beach nourishment. And that had been looked at, and also in around 2015, looked at costs of doing that. And that is always a possibility down the road to do beach nourishment. That being said, that project would likely have to be funded by other than the property owners that reside against the beach right now. I don't think they would be willing to take on that part of the project. So as far as losing the beach, all I can say is that since 2011, we're in 2023 right now, that's 12 years where there's been revetments or tow protection in place on King Edward, Alexandra Beach area, along with the Connaught Beach area by 8th Avenue. Any one of you can go down to the end of 8th Avenue, you can walk down onto the beachfront there. You will see that the tow protection, which is actually more of a revetment than just tow protection, it's a little more substantial than what we're proposing to do at King Edward Alexandra. And you will see that the beach is still there. If you walk down about 4 properties, you will find a property that was not protected, and you will see how much property has been lost as a result of that. And that property is now at a point where the owners of that property will be in a position to do whatever they feel is necessary to protect their property. So it could be that next year you're going to come down there and you're going to see a steel wall there. You could see avian baskets there with wire mesh on them. They would be at their own discretion on how they would want to protect their property. So what this group is proposing is to do something that's uniform along the entire beachfront. It's been talked about for many years. There's been public consultation over and over again about it. There's been close to hundreds of thousands of dollars, close to $750,000 spent on engineers and reports outlining what the consequences of not doing anything would be and what the possible consequences of doing something would be. So as a group here today, we are standing in front of council and members of the community, number one, to answer questions that you have for us that we may or may not be able to answer. Number two, we're seeking commitment and conditional approval for this project to move forward so that the necessary materials that are going to be required for the project can be started to be put together so that this work can be started this winter.
Let me turn this on.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. All right, great presentation. I know you put a lot of thought and effort into this. I did speak to Sheldon Kowalczyk today after he met with you on the beach. And Lon and Steve were able to listen into our conversation. He still hasn't reviewed the project. So he will be handing it off to his colleagues as well to review it. And he said it might be about a month before he could get back to us. So it would be a little premature for us, in my view, to give you conditional approval at this point. Sure.
So I know the province, since the municipality runs the municipality and the infrastructure, and is in tune with what the community wants and how the community uses the land. I know that they do, they want to know what you think of the project, and so do we.
Yeah, and we are, I believe, wanting to wait until they've had a chance to review it, which they have not. So I think it would be, I'm sorry, just before we go any further, there are no questions from the audience at this time, please. So what I was referring to, the province is Sheldon Kowalczyk, and he's with Crown Lands Branch. Sheldon approved the sandbags 11 or 12 years ago. Sheldon is the fellow that the RM has to talk to for these shoreline projects, because we're not really sure who owns the shoreline. And that was one of the topics that Sheldon and Steve and Lon and I talked about briefly today. But Sheldon did say, let us have a look at it before you make any decisions. I appreciate you have to get some rocks stockpiled, I understand that. But I do have a few questions, if I may, and maybe other council members do too, I'm sure. Do you have any kind of price point? Because the RM is going to have to protect 66 feet of shoreline on Alexandra and possibly 9. I think King Edward might be okay, but we have a 99-foot road allowance there that will be paid for by taxpayer dollars if this project goes ahead. So do you have any kind of price point?
So to start this project, again, we don't have all the information as to what we're actually going to be permitted to do.
Right.
So the starting point we have is $500 a lineal foot of the beach. And that's based on other projects that we've done. The projects that we've done in the past have run between $300 and $600. Those were done in previous years. The costs have gone up. So in order to get approval from the cottage owners, we went with the $500 a foot number. And I just wanted to add one thing that I didn't mention is that, and also talking with Sheldon about this and the gray area of who owns the property. The understanding that we were given today is that the property in question is under the care control of the municipality, but the title is in the property. That being said, the proposal that this group is putting forward to council could be viewed as a PPP, which is a public-private partnership project. Maybe there's 4 P's in there. Well, that's the festival in Pine Falls.
Yeah, you're confused.
Anyway, so, and those, by doing it in such a fashion, would eliminate some of the questions that the province could have insofar as liability goes, because then it would be viewed as the same as a set of stairs that are already going down and all the other municipal properties that are against the water's edge.
Okay, thank you. Timeline, how much time do you think it will take from start to finish?
We're hoping that again, when we ask for approval from council, it matters a lot to us whether the council currently here, the 5 of you, in principle agree with the project to move forward with a hard revetment. Then we could start working on sourcing the rock, the volume of rock that's required this fall immediately. The work itself on the beaches or on the beach would take place in the wintertime. We've identified 3 possible access points. One would be coming with the ice road from Pier Point. The second one would be coming down 5th Avenue onto the lake and coming around the point. The third one would be coming down at the end of King Edward onto the beach there. So depending on the ice conditions and safety considerations, one of those 3 would be chosen, but the work would begin in around February and would be completed by the end of April.
Okay.
However, we need to know, because like they need to start staging and gathering materials and preparing, because it wouldn't be possible to do that in February is my understanding.
Correct. Okay, another question that will come up is the Shoreline Erosion Technical Committee. Have they reviewed this project? And in previous conversations with Sheldon, the Shoreline Erosion Technical Committee is not operational at this time. The engineer who was working with us, he was on our Shoreline Advisory Committee years ago, was Abdul Razak, who's no longer working with the province. So Sheldon and his colleagues were going to try and see if there was any such committee anymore and let us know about that as well. But it should also be noted that CTEC, Shoreline Erosion Technical Committee, could only review documents. They had no teeth. They had no approval. They would just review. And that's what they did the last time in 2010, 2011, 2012. So we have done a little bit of homework on that. But I will let other council members speak if you don't mind and ask you questions. Go ahead, Erwin.
I'm a little troubled by a statement that you made earlier, stating that if no action was taken, the shoreline would continue to erode. And once that erosion hit your property line, you would become the owner of the beach. Does that mean, and I doubt this would happen, but over at Albert Beach, we have a current situation where it has been established, there is private beach there, and there's now a nasty roll of rocks. So would you be able to put a nasty roll of rocks along your beach if action was not taken?
So the Baird report or the shoreline management plan that you funded goes over that piece that I read. stating that. And I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but what I've seen in legal opinion that I think was given to the RM in the 70s when this was first brought up to the community about this concern, there's a note about putting in structures to protect that boundary. So I'm guessing that's when people put those fences or rocks or what have you, but I can't say for sure.
Is that your question?
No, this really answered the question.
The question is if we could put rocks.
If action is not taken to stop the erosion, you will then eventually become the owner of the beach in front of your property, which then the municipality would lose all control over. Is that correct?
That's what the Baird report says, and that's what's suggested in the 1970 advice from the province to the
I
RM.
was aware of that. I just wanted everybody else here to know that.
But I think you also have to take into consideration that your property line, your property on Sunset is generally 200 feet deep, correct? Generally?
Yep.
So your pegs end at that 200-foot spot. In my limited, very limited legal knowledge, you would not own from further out than 200 feet. That would still be public beach.
So the opinion in 1970, the advice from the Provincial Department of Mines and Natural Resources was about the way that Sunset was zoned as a road and granted that.
Mhm.
And that because of the way that it was done, there was no 99-foot allowance from the water's edge. And so Sunset is in fact from our property to the water's edge, and if it erodes, the accretion and erosion would mean that then our property could go to the water's edge.
I don't,
Like if
if it erodes into private property, but the question,
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but that's what your report said, right?
but find another lawyer and they will give you another opinion.
Well, we're going by your
Of course.
Baird report and the shoreline management.
Okay, but again, if this project goes ahead and we can protect the shoreline and protect the private properties,
And we don't have to worry about it.
that's one theory. All right, thank you. Graham?
Well, you, to the 2011 work, is that the work that's generically referred to as the Fourth Avenue stairs, Fourth Avenue steps?
No.
No, what I'm referring to in 2011 was a sandbag temporary repair that was done. The Fourth Avenue stairs, if you look at the scope of that project, it gives you a little bit better idea of how much beach would be taken up. And that project only encompassed half of the suggested revetment that they wanted to place. The revetment along King Edward Alexander would have also encompassed a walking path along the top portion of the revetment so that people would be able to walk along the portion between the bank and the rock revetment.
All right, well, I think it's generally understood that the so-called Fourth Avenue Stairs project, spearheaded by former Councilor Gordon Buchanan, has been a almost total success. And it's based pretty much on the toll rock concept. Is that not true? Accommodation.
Yeah, it is a common, it's another hybrid version of the 8th Avenue compost area and other revetments that have been done. Each one, I don't think they're all exactly the same.
No, they're all
They're all slightly different.
They're all
And that the proposal here is based on the fact that the group is trying to find a middle ground with the people that don't want any revetment at all, and those that want a total revetment. So it's like 6:30.
Okay.
6 o'clock, actually. No, I'm sorry, you can't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, if you want to come as a delegation to another council meeting, you are more than welcome to do that. The next council meeting is September 5th. If I allow questions, it will get completely out of hand. And what we'd like to do here is hear from council, and the proponents of this project. Go ahead, Steve.
I was just gonna say two things. The first is that, you know, you've done the right thing in terms of getting a finally unified solution, which has been one of the big issues to getting like a project like this actually considered by council, because previously there's been issues and that some people didn't want to do it, other people did. So if there's a unified solution, then it's proper armament of the bank. But I think that inside of your in your presentation, one of the things that you did very well was to also identify the fact that that's why those sandbags were there, and that the beach has not been lost. That's obviously a large concern that the rest of the community has, but I mean, that I think should help to tamp down a lot of the concerns. And as well, you're also, as Wolf, you demonstrated, you're not talking about, you know, a 70-foot wall of rocks. We're talking about something that essentially has been there for the last 30 years or so. That we've all, I mean, sandbags weren't exactly the most pretty thing of all time. And in all honesty, a bunch of rocks is not going to be the prettiest thing of all time, but it is something that is more natural. And, you know, I'm certainly a lot more open to it than some of the other proposals that have been put before council, and that you have done the proper research and you have done, I would say, everything that clicks off most of the boxes, so.
Okay, not to put too fine a point on it.
Hold on, I wanted to say one thing
This-
about that, about the sandbag and so what we noticed was that the volume of sand actually increased and had overtopped the sandbags in so many locations. So I think it had a positive, like the volume of sand had increased.
And I think too, you know, all of this is so dependent on lake levels, how much beach you have. And we have no control over that. So when the lake levels are low, I think, Wolf, you said they're at 714 right now.
Plus or minus, yeah.
So we've got a lot of beach everywhere, even where the revetments are on Arthur, the 5 revetments that were put in 2011 or 2012, they've got beach in front of them. But when the water levels were high, as they were last year, I saw pictures of Clubhouse, which is our biggest beach, and there was maybe 20 feet. So, I mean, all of us have to realize that, in my view anyways, that we have a group of residents along the shoreline who have invested, as have I on 4th Avenue, in my property. I wouldn't want to lose it. And if I wasn't allowed to protect it in some way, I would be looking for another way around that to try and protect it. I think you have done a lot of work. I think you have ticked off a lot of the boxes. That's not to say there won't be some objections. What I would also like to say is in the 13 years I've been on this council, I was elected July 2010. The weather bomb was October 2010. I don't want to live through that dissension. I don't want to live through that us versus them again. It's not healthy. It's not productive. And what I think you're doing here today is bringing forward a solution that is a compromise for you, for the shoreline owners, for the bank, and for council. I don't think we have choice anymore. We cannot let, in my view, property fall into the lake, because that means a loss to our tax base, it means a loss to our citizens, and it means a loss to the RN. And I don't think that is a good way to go.
Can I add to that, Penny? I just wanted to say that you mentioned $500 a foot. Are the properties about 75 feet wide?
Yes.
So that's about 37. It's about $37,000 to $40,000 per person. How many properties are involved?
17.
17. So if I multiply that by 17, we're talking close to $700,000 being spent to solve the problem. and it's not being paid by taxpayers. So that's pretty
Yes,
impressive, I think.
being paid by our taxpayers, but not by all of the taxpayers.
That's what I mean. I just think you've got a problem. Everybody agrees there's a problem, and you've come up with a solution where you're going to pay close to $700,000 to solve the problem. You know, I can't see, I think this is a great idea, to be honest.
Thank you.
Just a point I wanted to make, as far as, you're looking for council's approval on this new improved form that we've developed, which also requires provincial approval. And it's my understanding that you've already submitted your obligatory copy to the province.
We've submitted,
Yeah, we've submitted the package that we submitted to you. We also provided it.
That's good. Okay, well, you've covered all your bases. It's enough work now. Thank you.
And as Sheldon said today on the phone, it might take him up to a month for him and his colleagues to review. So I know you want to hear an answer tonight. I'm not comfortable giving you that answer until Sheldon and his crew have reviewed it. But I don't know how the rest of council feels. I think what I'm hearing is you have more support than you have ever had before on the shoreline revetment with this council.
Yes.
Thank you. I think it's premature to approve because if the province came back with some conditions, then we're kind of caught in between rock and a hard place, if I can use that analogy. So I think it's prudent to wait. We can push Sheldon for an answer, and I think that's probably the most effective thing that we can do. I just want to say too, I think this is an excellent example of a serious attempt to find a cooperative compromise, and I applaud your group for taking the effort to make that happen.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
And for recognizing that doing nothing is not.
thank you for that.
Thank you so much for recognizing that.
So I'm going to just loop back again to why we were here. The reason that I'm saying conditional approval, and I'm going to emphasize the word conditional, because that tells us that the province is telling us, if you get approval from them, we will go ahead. And you're saying if you get approval from them, we can go ahead. So somebody has to make the first move. And I acknowledge that, we've had lengthy conversation with the types of permitting process that the provincial government has. And I'm going to leave it in your hands to find the best permitting solution that meets your requirements and theirs and the group.
I appreciate that. And in our conversation with Sheldon today, he did ask for some time. So I know we don't want to hear that, but I think we need to take a step back and wait for Sheldon to review it. He did say though, that if you're okay with it, we'll probably be okay with it. If we're okay with it, you'll probably be okay with it perhaps. So I just don't want to make that judgment call right now. I want to wait until Sheldon has a chance to review it.
I appreciate that, and I also understand that you may have some of the opponents to this project that might be presenting at the next meeting. And I just want to make it clear that this group would be available to address those concerns and to find a solution to those concerns to move this forward.
Great, thank you for that.
Agreed, and also to keep in mind how such fast feedback and concerns and issues, these have all already been raised for years and considered, and recommendations have been made, and now we're here offering for it because we don't know what else to do.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you, Steve.
I want to be just fundamentally clear is that if any of this process is seen or is rushed, and like especially right now, if we were to give you conditional approval, then that would be the fastest way to setting the fire in the community again. Not to try to reference fire again. So we need to do this right, and I'm sure. I'm not comfortable saying yes right now, and I'm hoping that we're all in agreement, or Penny's in agreement. But we need to hear, as you already said, from the others. And, you know, they might have a couple really good recommendations or whatever, but that's the way to move forward. So, but we're going to be talking to Sheldon very soon, and then we're all going to be on the same page.
Hopefully.
Yep.
Ian, anything else from you? No?
No, I think I've covered it. Actually, I could say that what you might want to do is to reach out to Sheldon and move up the timeline.
I know he's a busy guy. He's got a huge territory, and he did come today and he met with this group on the beach, and you took him down to the pump house and showed him that revetment. So, and Sheldon has taken pictures all around our municipality a few years ago of all the ad hoc structures and the dangerous stairs and the stuff in the lake that shouldn't be there. So he's aware of our community. He wants to come and have another look today, and then he will review the documentation. So I can push him, but I also need to respect that he has other commitments as well.
Sorry, Penny, I wasn't referring to you. I was referring to the people that are presenting. They could make a call and let Sheldon know their sense of urgency. That's all I was saying.
I think Sheldon's aware. But thank you, Ian.
And Ian, just so you know, the permitting process with the province now, it's a dialogue first, and then he sends us the actual application form. It's not something that you can just go and willy-nilly download off the internet now. It's actually, you talk to him first about it, and or email, and he looks at the merits of the project, and then when he feels there's merit, then he will forward us the necessary applications that we need to fill in.
So that's new, relatively new then, or has it been
That
a
was
few
last
years?
year.
Last year, okay.
Can you start that now? Sorry for interrupting.
We've started that by meeting. Yeah, that was
Okay, that's good.
we sent him an email, or Laura sent an email with the same package that you've received. So she started a dialogue. This is the kind of the second or third step of this. And then, you know, once he feels that, I think basically the consensus has to be between the municipality and the province before he can move forward with giving us and saying, like, you know, you guys, these are the 2 permits that you need to fill out, or this is the 1 permit.
Yeah.
I should stress that if it's municipal property, then there's only 1 permit we need.
You would likely need a permit if you're going to build a nice road, though.
That would be the 1 permit.
And you would need our permit. Yeah, okay. I want to thank you all for your work on this. I really do. I know it's a contentious issue, or it can be. And none of us want to go through that again, nor do I want to see the division in the community that happened last time that resulted in people moving away and selling their cottages because neighbors were pitting themselves against neighbors. We all want access to the beach, and we all want to protect our property. And I can't say it enough. I've come a long way in 13 years. I used to be anti-revetment. I'm definitely not anti-revetment. I've learned a lot, I hope, over the last 13 years in dealing with residents and council members and shoreline. So I applaud you, and we will do our best to reach out to Sheldon and liaise with Sheldon and keep you in the loop. And thank you for your offer to come to the next council meeting, when we will no doubt have delegations to ask them questions perhaps on this project. So thank you very much. All right. We have one more, thank you everyone. We have one more delegation tonight, and that is Linda McMillan regarding notification to residents during power outages. Linda, would you like us to bring you the microphone so you can? Okay, I'm perfectly capable of walking. All right. I just have to find it. All right, can we please give Linda the attention that the previous delegation received? Thank you. Go ahead, Linda.
I'm just trying to check and see if it's on.
Now it's on, yes, thank you.
Yes, when I applied to speak to you, or when I thought about it 10 days ago, I was concerned about 2 forms or 2 incidents of communication, failure to communicate, that have come through in the last month. Now, after watching what happened in Maui and in the Yukon and BC, I have a few more concerns about communication. When the garbage bins were suddenly removed from all over the north corner of the north half of the island, we have no notification whatsoever. You have been notifying the residents of Elder Beach and of Victoria Beach about garbage pickup and changes. There had been nothing ever said to any of us. So suddenly we hear on the 30th of June, your garbage bins are gone. No notification, no communication. It took me a week of trying to find out what was going to be happening. We didn't get notified that we would have garbage pickup on Wednesdays. No one in our community knew that. So suddenly we have no bins, no notification of garbage pickup. You've just now announced in the meeting report just now, as of the 6th of June, we have no garbage pickup for the rest of the year. And I know in the community who do have garbage pickup, it used to be, but here I am, a disabled person living at the beach with no way of getting my garbage to you and no alternative suggested because there's no notification. A week later, 2 weeks later, I'm told that there was a planned power outage. And if only I had been able to drive down to Traverse Bay and looked into the bush on the extreme left side, I might have seen a hydro note saying planned power outage. But as someone who doesn't drive, how would I know? No one on my street knew. We were wandering around to each other saying, any idea why we have no power? I can't phone hydro because I don't have them on my phone, and my phone works when it feels like. But that's not your fault. I do, and I have applied for Connect. But there was no notification that we had a planned power outage. That to me is something that should be communicated through Connect. I understand that on the 30th of June or thereabouts, there was a notice put on Facebook. Well, I'm sorry. Some people use Facebook. I work for the European Union, for the United Nations, for the Australian Police, Federal Police Force, and we were flatly not allowed to use Facebook. So why would I think to look on Facebook when we have a Connect? It would be very easy for that to be in place. Contact us through Connect. I've spoken to the office and said, can you switch me over so I get phone call? Because I can no longer read my Wi-Fi messages on Gmail. Unless my Gmail is choosing to work that day, but I can't read it most of the time. But I made the phone call at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, knowing there were storm warnings coming up because a friend in the beach area had got an alert from Alexander's rural office saying there's tornado warnings. So I understood. I phoned the office. Lynn was able to magically fix me up in half an hour. And I got the phone calls. So Connect works. If you've applied for Connect and if you use Connect, and if the RM chooses to use Connect. Communication used to be really good in this community. 25 years ago, you'd get 150 people at a meeting, sitting, listening to council, politely, respectfully, and learning what was happening. We were allowed to speak as well. We could say, our new area has developed and we needed garbage bins so we're not littering the beach. Our new area has developed, so we need a beach boy to clean our ditches and our beaches. We could connect and say, we're walking over the dune and damaging them. Could you put in an overland bridge for us so we're not destroying the environment? But now we're not allowed to speak anymore unless we come as a delegation. And coming as a delegation isn't easy because I apply. I've been told there's 2 delegations who don't want to hear from you. I have been told, well, maybe next month you can come. I have been told you don't need to come because you can just write a letter and we'll respond. That doesn't let the rest of the community know anything. So the poor communication that has been in place by a council who 4 out of 5 of you ran on openness and transparency, and now one group can communicate by clapping, but no one else could say a word. Not good communication. And I am pleased that you have allowed me to come and speak, but improved communication should perhaps be your goal, rather than ignoring logical ways of communication. Talking to cottage owners associations and giving equal weight to one that has 700 members and one that has 4 is not very reasonable. In my neighborhood, we don't have cottage owners association, and yes, we could, as one of your counselors said to me, you could go hire a lawyer and build one. Well, why should we have to? Why shouldn't we be able to be, like most bodies in the province, able to come and speak and ask a question? I know one member of council here has said to me, well, no one ever goes to the city of Winnipeg. Sorry, back in the old days, 1970s, frequently referred to here tonight, I went to the city of St. Vital and we spoke as a delegation from our community about issues we had. And we were heard. I've been to Winnipeg One School Board to listen to the issue of shutting down handicapped schools. I've been to St. Vital School Board a gazillion times as they wanted to close down schools and remodel things. Communication with council should be a possibility. It shouldn't be something that, oh, we'll consult the Sandy Bay Cottages Association, 4 people. And well, you guys never got around to forming one, so we don't care. We're going to discuss zoning and not think to communicate with you. Better communication truly is needed. There are simple ways of doing that. And perhaps one of the models you need to think of is improving your listening skills. Because we had, as was referred to earlier today, a warning signal that was tested every day, every Sunday at noon, just like the Dominion Observatory time signal. And it was torn down, thrown in the bush, and found in 2017. The report said it has been repaired 5 years later, but we don't know how to put it up. And one of our employees doesn't think it's really important, but he doesn't pay taxes in the RM. He doesn't live in the RM, and his family has a way out if there's a fire. The rest of us don't. So maybe there needs to be better communication. Maybe there needs to be more action. Maybe you need to take a little bit of the money and figure out how to raise a totem pole so you can put the siren on and make it work. Even if our chief of police, our chief of fire doesn't think it's important, there are a lot of us within the community who do. And maybe a little better listening is important. And the solution to how people who are disabled can live actively in this community and be safe. Penny, you used to be an absolute champion of accessibility.
I still am.
And I'm sorry, it took 4 years for us to get Public Works, where you were the liaison, before they put yellow lines on the store so you could walk safely up and down the stairs. Do you know what? 5 years later, those yellow lines need to be replaced. It's not on a go-forward list. Nobody seems to have brought it up. But we need to have something for people who are visually impaired in this community. And there's no reason that one person couldn't be assigned a task renewing those yellow lines so I can actually go to the store and come out safely. It shouldn't take another 4 years before, having brought it to your attention now, Public Works gets around to doing it. There really needs to be more thought, more action, more communication, more listening, and more effort to really respond to the people who live in the community. Thus, my lecture is over. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. All right. Your point is valid about the garbage, Linda. We did not roll that out as well as we should have, and there wasn't enough notice or communication given to the community. We take responsibility for that and we do apologize. I agree with you there. And our council will take into consideration the rest of your comments. And we are looking at the siren.
That was discussed this afternoon.
That was discussed this afternoon. And you make some very valid points. So thank you very much for coming forward.
I would just make one quick point, which is that, like, when I got on council, that was pretty close to the time that Brad found that siren. But he mentioned it right off the bat that we need to put it back up. So I don't recall him ever saying we shouldn't be doing that. The biggest issue is being able to get a structure that's not going to rip itself apart the second that thing goes off. And that's effectively what happened. Was that the forces on us and kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and we need something that's strong enough to be able to withstand what that thing is spinning.
Well, do we need an engineer?
No, I don't know that we need an engineer, but the actual siren weighs 300 pounds.
Yeah, that's no.
And so we need to have a structure high enough and strong enough to support it, and we need 3-phase electric for it. We now have 3-phase electric near the fire hall and the public works yard. What we don't have is a structure at this time to put it up on. So yes, it's taken way longer than it should for a variety of reasons.
Well, do you agree that nothing much is gonna happen until we put a price on this structure?
Well, we may be able to use an existing Rogers cell tower that is in the yard that may be decommissioned. But again, it's something that we discussed this afternoon.
I'm sorry if I missed that.
Yes.
Thank you
And we'll look into
for
it.
bringing me up to date. Okay,
No
good.
problem. All right. Oh, okay, East is there. All right. Moving on to correspondence, information, and announcements. We are still looking for a citizen rep for the Allard Library Board. It's really necessary, and it provides another voice in the community for our little library. The Benchmark project, which is the installation of the artistic bench on the Macaulay Trail. The Benchmark project will be installed, the mini entry will be installed and unveiled on Saturday, September 9th on the Macaulay Trail, and all residents are welcome. This is from Benchmark. The location is at the Bend, approximately 650 meters from either 8th Avenue or Macaulay Road. The trail itself is 1.3 kilometers long, and the site is approximately halfway between. And there's coordinates here. I believe it will be at 3 o'clock.
Is that the front trail, Penny?
It is the Macaulay Trail from 8th Avenue to Macaulay, the one that you used to use so much. It goes to McCord, but it's referred to as the Macaulay Trail.
Okay, yes,
Yes.
I understand why.
Correct. But yes, it goes to McCord. That's correct. So all are welcome, and Benchmark tried to get a notice in the last Herald. It didn't happen, so the Herald is going to be putting something out on their website or Facebook page, which I appreciate. All people don't have Facebook. This is their project. That's why I'm announcing it today, so that Some residents can join if they like, and perhaps we can put this out on Connect when we put out our fire notice. Another update, the RM is moving our Winnipeg office to 2035 Portage Avenue near Sergeant Sunday in October. Lon is working on that. Yesterday, I attended the Eastern Regional Municipal Committee meeting in Pinawa, and there was lots of discussion from an RM about Springfield councillor regarding the steel silica mine that is happening in Vivian. And two members of their council in Springfield are very concerned about the impacts to local water sources, among many other concerns. And they will be launching a very aggressive media campaign, these two council members, against this project. We also discussed, one of our topics is the standardization of municipal bylaws. Many of the communities in this group have Prairie Bylaw as their bylaw enforcement, and the RCMP. They don't have, aside from Springfield, their own police force. So they're trying to make sure that Prairie Bylaw has more teeth in some of the bylaws and some of the laws that they can enforce. So that's ongoing. And the other thing we talked about a bit maybe of interest is some communities in the group experience a lot of traffic noise, garbage, and dangers with some abandoned gravel pits. And there's an area called the Reynolds Ponds, which were old pits that have since been filled with water, or maybe have the water drained out. I'm not really sure. But they're being used as illegal campgrounds, and it's Crown land, and there's a lack of manpower by RCMP or conservation officers to police and enforce some of the activities. Like there have been people having target practice with real guns around the bank, and there have been two people at least have died with improper use of ATVs. So, and there's garbage and washroom issues, and so they're having some trouble finding manpower. Conservation is challenged, and so are the RCMP. So that's what's going on in their communities. So that's what I had to report. Anything from you gentlemen?
No, nothing stands out.
Had enough today? Ian, do you have anything further to add?
No, I don't.
All right, Lon, do you have any comments? All right. Thank you very much. I will move on to the adjournment. Be it resolved that the August 22nd, 2023 regular council meeting be adjourned. And to confirm, the next council meeting will be on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023 at 6 p.m. here in the East Beaches Social Scene in Victoria Beach. Mover. Graham, thank you. Second, Steve. Any further discussion? Ian's already left. He's in his car. All right. All those in favor?
I'm in favor.
Okay, carried. Thank you, Ian.
Okay.